Okay. Shalom and welcome to the 2025 Homeschool Family Conference. We are so thankful you guys are here tonight. Who's here with me? Amy.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I knew she was here. So I just had onions.
Whatever, carry on.
Well, she's actually our sponsor for tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, she really is. She brought me over the brand new Torah Sisters magazine, and I haven't looked at it yet. Yeah, we're canceling tonight's session. I want to read it.
So this one, can they hear me?
Yes.
So this one is all about the fall feast. It has pictures of sukkahs that other ladies last year made from all different kinds, like couch sukkahs and dining table sukkahs and outside sukkahs and moon phase calendars, so you can do a countdown, and ideas for celebrating Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur. Those are hard ones. Like, what do you do on those days?
That's a really good question.
So I brushed this over because it's like hot off the press. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's awesome. I was actually going to talk about it. And our studio software has been glitching this afternoon. So I wanted to put up a picture of Torah Sisters, but this is better. This is, the Father knows all of that. So go to TorahSisters.com. I'm going to be talking about her new community shortly. Goodbye. And so you also, at the very front of her website, when you log into TorahSisters.com, you're going to see a community. We are going to talk about that this evening. So keep that in mind. Well, that was one way to do a sponsorship. So tonight, we're going to be gaining practical skills for establishing new school year routines. New school years are overwhelming. In fact, we can get overwhelmed at any time, but we're going to concentrate especially on the overwhelm that comes as you plan for a new school year, whether you're a new homeschooler or someone that's been around the block for a while. We're going to explore what the scripture says about, one, making a plan, and also how to conquer that fear and overwhelm that comes when we feel inadequate, so that you can homeschool with confidence. That's what I'm looking for. Tonight is going to be super practical, so grab a pen and paper and your Bible. We have been having glitches with our software most of the day, and so I'm not going to put up any slides tonight. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm also going to keep the chat up on the screen the whole time, just so we don't have to worry about it. You guys chat away, and I probably won't pay that much attention, but my daughter Kirsten is here to help. Now, every day of this conference, we've been talking about one of the pillars of homeschooling, something that's really important to Homeschooling Torah. So we talked about strong marriages and parenting on Monday. And yesterday we talked about how to use the Bible to teach every subject. The third pillar that we've been talking about today, making today probably one of the more practical days. Homeschooling Torah believes in using biblical methods to teach our children to hear clearly, to learn through repetition, to keep learning in their hearts, and to do it by applying it daily to their lives. And that's from Deuteronomy 5, verse 1. So I wanted tonight to talk about, I don't know where to put that, so I'm going to throw it on the floor. I wanted to talk about how to make learning practical from a mom's perspective without getting completely overwhelmed. Because as you think about being in charge of your children's education, it is very, very easy to get overwhelmed. So we're going to look at a lot of scripture. I do have slides for it, but let's not worry about the system. Instead, I put a whole bunch of sticky notes in my Bible so that I can flip to the passages quickly, and you'll have time to write the references down that way too. Maybe, Kirsten, do you mind putting the references in the chat? That way, in case they miss what I said. The first one we are going to turn to is Proverbs 16, verse 3. So that's Proverbs 16:3. And it says, "Commit your works to Yehovah, and your thoughts will be established." Commit. I love Hebrew words. So we're going to talk about what the Hebrew word is for commit. That word is goal, commit. It means to roll onto him. Goal, roll, they kind of sound a lot alike. I find that fascinating. But the word means to take your problems, your plans, and roll them onto Yehovah. In other words, get that burden off your back, moms. You're feeling overwhelmed with all the planning. Roll it onto his ample shoulders, and he will, then it says, your thoughts will be established. What are thoughts? This is a fun Hebrew word. I'm going to sound it out for you. Mach ashava. Mach hashava. You try that. Machashava, and that is the word for a plan, or better yet, an invention. We can understand that. We invent homeschooling ideas, don't we? We're like, ooh, look at all this new curriculum, and I can imagine what it's going to be like this year. It's going to be so awesome. And we make all these plans, these designs, these inventions. And he says, do that. You will have those inventions. That's what he created us to do. But roll them onto him and let his ample shoulders carry those inventions and plans wherever he wants them to be. Now, I'm also going to turn to Proverbs 19, verse 1. 19:21. I'm sorry. 19:21. I have a lot of Proverbs verses tonight. It says, there are many plans in a man's heart. That's the same word, makashava. There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, Yehovah's counsel, that will stand. And the word counsel is his advice. You can have all kinds of inventions and plans in your heart, but he's the one, when you get your counsel from him, that's what stands forever. So make sure you are going to him and to his word for counsel. Okay, now I'm going to also take you over to Luke chapter 14, and we're going to start in verse 28. Luke 14, 28 through 30. So I'll give you a second to get there. Luke 14, 28 says, for which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. I don't want that in my life, do you? I want the plans to be established, but that's only going to happen when we put our plans and we roll them over onto Yehovah. Otherwise, we make all the plans and we have no idea what problems are going to come into our lives, and we sometimes can't finish. And that doesn't mean that we have to never give up on something. Sometimes Yah puts a plan in our life and he changes the direction. That's not giving up. That's rolling it onto him. But we have to listen to his advice in his Torah and in his word and make sure we build our foundation on him. So that was a good introduction, okay? Let's talk about how to plan a new school year. We're going to talk about how to plan a new school year, and I've got 6 points for that. And then we're going to talk about how to prevent feeling overwhelmed. And I didn't count them, 1, 2, a few billion points for that. And we're going to end with some common myths in homeschooling that we want to bust and get out of here, okay? So I'm going to start with planning, and we're going to go to Proverbs 29:18. Proverbs 29:18. Okay, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but happy is he who keeps the Torah. Proverbs 29:18. Now, I just read it from the King James Version, even though I normally read from the New King James Version, and I just changed the names so I can say Yeshua and Yehovah and so on. That was the King James, though. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but happy is he who keeps the Torah. In the New King James Version, this is how it goes. Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the Torah. I wanted to talk about both of those versions and how they actually are really similar in what they're saying. The Hebrew word there for vision has to do with what a prophet or a seer can see, and it's how he sees into the future. And that is a divine gift given to him by Yehovah. It's not some magical ability, but Yah downloads, I hate that word, honestly. Let me find a better word. Yah reveals to him what the future is saying. And this verse is saying, when Israel doesn't have any prophets who are guiding them in what Yah sees for the future, then the people will perish. There will be problems, or sometimes they'll cast off the restraint of following the Father. But happy is he who keeps or guards his Torah. I think it's also appropriate to use that word in the context of planning, because when we plan for the future, it usually starts by us envisioning what the future should look like. And it's warning us in that verse to don't make your plans and visions without guarding the Torah. Guarding the Torah should be at the beginning of what you plan your homeschooling year to look like. So how do you plan? Where's my pen? You write it down. I suggest going out with your husband, because these are all of your children together. So if you're married, go on one of those date nights that we talked about on Monday and go out and spend time with your most important best friend and plan out what is most important for the coming year and how do you see it? What's the vision for how you see it taking shape? Write it down. I also recommend that you pray about these visions because you don't want to do anything without the advice of Yehovah. And you need to make sure that everything you're planning is actually in agreement with his word. So you wouldn't be wanting to plan activities that go against his Torah, that break his Sabbath. You wouldn't want to be including educational materials or anything that's going to lead your children away from the Torah. Those are some basics. But beyond that, how do you envision your days going? What is it going to feel like? How do you want your children to grow in their own goals? What are some of the things that your children need to work on? So as you do all of those things, you're praying over it with your husband on the date night that you're out on, and then you're writing them down and you're creating what you envision it to look like. Does that mean it's going to happen? Not necessarily. In fact, 9 times out of 10, no, you're not going to actually accomplish all of those things. But don't worry, Yah's counsel, his advice, his plans for your life are going to stand. He's going to override you in many things, and we'll talk about what to do when that happens. But at the moment, get a vision so you can head to it. Otherwise, when there is no vision, people perish. There's nothing going to happen without some sort of goal to go in. So number 1, make sure you have a vision for your school year. Number 2, make sure you have some goals for growth. You want goals. So you have the vision. I want my school year to look like this. I imagine a house full of peace. The children don't argue and they love to do homeschooling. It's okay to write that down. That's what I envision it being. Okay. But how are you actually going to accomplish that? You're going to have to make some goals. So for instance, Susie, we're going to have to work on her attitude this year because she is not getting along with her sister. So maybe we should include in her homeschooling this year some verses that help her get along with her siblings. And how are we going to teach those? What are some creative ways we can do that? So it's one thing to have a vision, and you also need an action plan for how you're going to get there. And you can see this is another good thing you should do with your husband. So make some goals. Some of them are academic. We want to do algebra. We want to do biology. We want to do classic literature. I've always wanted my son to read this one book, and you're going to write those goals down. Again, do this with your husband. Do it for each child, and do it also for some family goals. As a family, here are some goals that we're going to work on this year. So for instance, we're going to work on entering Sabbath with a cleaner house than we've had before. For instance, I want to make sure all the laundry is folded and put away. I want to make sure that the kitchen is neat and tidy before the sun sets. So that's a goal. And action plan. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to stop school at 3:00 on Friday and convert everybody over. Everybody at the same time, we're going to pitch in and do some house cleaning for a little while. Those are some visions and goals. Does you see the difference between the two? Okay. Also set some personal goals. So maybe a personal goal, well, one I have for this year is I want to get in better shape. I want to exercise it just a little bit more because I'm 51. I want my muscles to be strong and to carry me over a little bit further than they are at the moment. But sometimes I don't take the time for it. So I see a vision of me having strong muscles and being in shape, even in my 50s. But what's my plan for how to actually do that? So I've got to think to myself, well, I could have a plan of maybe setting aside a little bit of time after lunch each day to do a short workout on YouTube. And here is the workout that I'm going to do. So I've got my vision. I've got my plan. Does that make sense? Do it for each child, do it for the entire family, and make sure you include yourself on some goals. Write them down, pray about them, do it with your spouse, take his constructive criticism. I know it's hard. Anyway, this will be a good start to your new school year. Then get out the calendar and start to put all of these things into time slots. Okay. First of all, I like to get out a 12-month calendar, and I like to plan for the big rocks. The big rocks meaning when is Sukkot? Okay. I know from advice or from past experience, it's really hard to do school around Sukkot time because, well, first of all, we go away for Sukkot, which, by the way, you're all invited to join us at Sukkot in Michigan. Go check that out in the goodie bag, and you can find out more about that. But it takes a few days to pack. Then we go away for those 8 days. Sometimes there's a little edge on both sides because we have to travel. And then we have to come home and put it all away and wash all the stinky laundry and clean out the coolers and put everything away. It's just a big, big thing. So we have several weeks that we just don't do school. We cancel it. And that's a big rock that I want to be sure I have on my calendar. What are some other big rocks? Well, let's say that there's an event that's coming up, maybe a 3-day thing that your local homeschool co-op is offering. It's a class that's a little bit extra and fun, and you really would like your students to participate because they'd learn valuable things. Put it on the calendar. Torah Sisters has a retreat every year in Michigan. It's the week after Mother's Day. That's a big rock. Mom, you need some refreshment for yourself. Put that on your calendar, and now you've got it as a big rock. You know you're not going to do school that week because you're going to be going to Michigan, right? But it also defines your goals, because your goal is maybe one of your personal goals. I need to make more Torah friends this year, so I have fellowship. Well, that means one of the goals, that's a vision. But how are you going to accomplish that? Well, maybe you're going to have to stick a $20 bill in an envelope every week so you can save up the money to actually go to something like that. You're going to have to figure out who's going to stay with the kids while you're doing that. So you have visions, goals, and then it needs to get on the calendar, because there's something about a calendar that puts a deadline in our brain. You know what? I wasn't going to say this, but I actually have a fun app on my iPhone. It's just a free app that does a countdown, and I have countdowns towards different things. Like my son is getting married soon, so that's a big rock on my calendar. I have a countdown to Sukkot. I always put a countdown to the Torah Sisters retreat. So those are fun, and that kind of spurs me to action. Oh my word, I have less than 50 days. I have a lot to do. And suddenly I can think of the things that need to be done. And that kind of gives me that deadline that sometimes we homeschool moms, we just need a little bit of that spur to action. So you've got your vision, got your goals, you're starting to put the big rocks on your calendar. And now let's talk about individual weeks. What would an ideal week look like for you? I'm talking ideal here. I'm not talking everybody got sick or you got pregnant unexpectedly. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm not talking about any of those things. I'm talking about ideal. In a perfect world, this is back to the vision stage again. What would an ideal week look like to you? It might look different than it looks to me. For instance, what time of day, if the world was perfect, would you eat breakfast, lunch, and supper? You need to maybe make a little chart and write all that down. Like I actually have a chart for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't do it on Sabbath. Sabbath to me is but all the other days. Okay. So I have, this is what time on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that I want to eat breakfast, lunch, and supper. Now, does it always happen? No, but this is ideal. Okay. Go ahead and fill out an ideal thing. When would you all get up in the morning? If the world was perfect and all the babies listened to your wonderful vision. And by the way, this is our vision, so we can work towards these goals and help train our children to do this, right? But what time would we get up? What time would we go to bed? When would naps be? Things like that. How about the non-negotiables? Piano lessons, they always happen on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. So it needs to go on my ideal week, but it's really not that movable. When do groceries need to be purchased? When does laundry need to be done? These are fairly non-negotiable. You need clean underwear, right? So what about your husband? What are some things he really wishes for you? My husband loves it when I go out and weed the flower beds. It's really important to him. Sometimes, like the week of the conference, if you come visit, like Amy just did, she's going to find some weeds in my flower bed because I haven't gotten it done. This is not a normal ideal week, but normally I have it in my ideal week of this is a good time I could go out and weed the flower bed. Okay. So those are some things that we want to do for our husbands. How about what time of day would school start? And what time would it end? We were talking to Christine Miller earlier this afternoon, and she said school started at 8 o'clock at her house. Let me just tell you, I'm a morning person. I am. I love to get up, but I like my mornings. So I pushed my school time to start a little bit later than that because I enjoyed my quiet time before we started on school. But then we go further into the afternoon than other people might. And that's maybe the season I'm in. When my children were really young and my husband was working outside the home, he was up and leaving at 7:30. So I was starting with the children at 7:30. It depends on the season. So what's your ideal week? Or when would you like school to start? Every day. Would you be like Rachel that we talked to on Monday where she does school 6 days a week, or would you only do it 4 days a week? What does it look like for you? What are all the siblings going to do while you're working with phonics with one of them? What are the rest of them going to do? Do you have something like that in your ideal week? Because you might write down, I'm going to do phonics with Johnny at this time. I'm going to do math with Kim at this time. And you write those down. But what about when you're working with Kim, what's Johnny going to do? You have a plan for that? So this ideal week, take some time to do this. When I make an ideal week for the first time and we have drastic changes in our lives, I usually take about a week to actually make this ideal plan. So if school's starting right now for you, maybe this is something you're going to have to just throw together. If you've been homeschooling for a while and you already know your routine, this will be easy for you to make. But if this is new for you, don't get overwhelmed, but do give it a few days because you'll make this ideal week and then all of a sudden you'll remember you forgot a really important thing. And now the whole thing is you got to start over. And that's no fun. So that's another key point. While I use a pen for a lot of things in life, making ideal weeks, I use pencils. Okay, because a pencil can be erased and I find that I have to erase it a lot. I also find that I have to make a new ideal week about every quarter because life changes. Maybe my piano teacher calls and she wants to switch those Wednesday at 1 o'clock lessons over to Thursday at 3 p.m. That's going to change a lot about my life. So I just tend to write in pencil and then every 3 months or so come back and give it a look again and reevaluate. Okay, I wanted to give you a verse real quick. Proverbs 29:15. Proverbs 29:15, and maybe your Bible's still open to Proverbs 29 from before, but it says, "The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother." That's an important verse. When Yah is giving you advice here. All right, you can make all the best of intentions, but his advice stands, his counsel stands. He says, don't leave your kids to themselves all the time, Mom. When you make your ideal week, be sure that you are planning in supervision for these children that you are responsible for. Without supervision, guarantee you're going to have some problems. So, okay, we've got our vision, we've got goals, we've got our calendars and our ideal weeks. Now, let's talk about some routines that you need to establish in your home every day, okay? First of all, what is the routine in your house for when everyone wakes up? What's your morning routine? You need to have one. When are the beds going to get made? When are the teeth going to get brushed? When are the babies going to be fed? Who's going to take care of getting yogurt for the toddler? Who's going to take care of feeding the dog? Who's going to take care of the chickens and gather the eggs? All of these things need to be written down and listed. And again, this is somewhat ideal. It's not always going to happen. But here, when I make up my routines for the morning or any other ones that we're going to talk about, I tend to make a chart, especially for younger children that aren't readers. But everybody likes to know what to expect in a day. They want to share your vision, right? They want to see it. And it'll be accomplished better if everyone's on the same page. I love going and making cute charts and putting pictures here. Go online. There's so many cool tools that you can use to make these. I like to write who's doing what, and the more non-readers you have, the more pictures you're going to want to put on your chart, and put these in a place where everyone can see them, like the refrigerator, okay? Stick it right on the front so everyone can see it. If you have a refrigerator that doesn't take a magnet, then maybe your husband can make you a cool frame to hang on the wall and you can put it right in that frame. Okay, another routine. What does the beginning of your school day look like? So when your children come to sit at the dining room table, what are you expecting them to do? Well, I expect my children to have all of their school books, and it depends on the year. Sometimes we've had a milk crate that we put their school books in. Sometimes they have a bag. Right now it's a bag. So they need to have brought their bag. They need to have a pencil that's actually working and hasn't broken. I mean, these are like basic things. They need to have a Bible. I want them to have their water bottle, because you're just about 3 verses into Deuteronomy and all of a sudden, I'm thirsty. They need to have already gone to the bathroom. Okay, basic things. What do you want to have on the table? How about some supplies for notebooking, like maybe colored pencils and pens, all the different colors? They need to have everything ready and be available, and you need a start time. Okay, so these are really basic things. After that, you can have that flow that just kind of, it's okay. You don't have to be super rigid with the time, but the start time is really valuable to have. And what are you expecting of your students? And what are you expecting even of yourself? What do you want to have ready? And it's nothing, maybe you could even set, if you have an iPhone like I do, I don't know on Android, but you could probably set it so that you'll put your phone on a focus mode so that not everyone can call you at that moment, unless it's super important. Okay. So those are the kinds of things that you want to have in your start of a school day routine. How about other routines? If you have a home, you're going to need homemaking routines. When are you going to clean the bathroom? When are you going to do laundry? How often are you changing the kitty litter box? These are things that you need to have written down. If you have a farm or a home business, you probably realize all of the extracurricular things that have to be done. And if you write them down, it helps a lot that they will be accomplished. How about exercise and health? Do you have a routine for that? Do you have a menu? Do you know what's going to be for dinner tonight? Homeschooling Torah members, you get a menu, but it doesn't mean it's the food that you like. Maybe you want to pick and choose. I like 4 of those recipes, but I'm going to need to choose a 5th one because I just don't really care for chili. So you're going to have to make a menu once a week. That's another thing that's going to go on your ideal week. When are you going to make a menu and a shopping list? Okay. How about who plays with the children at which times? Or maybe some of your children are going to have a quiet time in their room every day where they sit and look at quiet books. Maybe little ones need a nap. Maybe teenagers have to work a couple afternoons. So each child, you've got some things that are essential for them. And it's like a routine. So if you have a teenager who's going to work, you could work out a routine with your teenager saying, okay, about 15 minutes before it's time to go, you need to know your shoes are, you need to know where the keys are, you need to have anything ready for work. Maybe you need a lunch. These are things that you can kind of help them. Okay. Then bedtime. Bedtime routines are so awesome. One of the things I miss the most about having little children is the bedtime routines. I love bedtime routines. Take your bath, get your jammies on. Everybody get on mom's bed. We're going to be reading a story tonight. We're reading from Grandma's Attic, and we can't wait to see what crazy thing happens next. I love bedtime and the stories and the cuddles. Maybe you have some special routines at your house. Maybe daddy has a tickle time with them every night and they look forward to that roughhousing with dad. So all of those things are laid out. So you've got your vision, you've got your goals, you've got your calendar, you've got your vision for an ideal week and your routines for all the different parts of the day. Does that mean it's going to happen? No way is it going to always happen like that. I don't know. At least it never does at my house. But at least I know where I'm headed. I know, let's say in 3 months from now, I take a look at my vision again and my ideal week. And now I can refine the goals and say, this did not work. So we could try this instead. Okay. And it really helps us to aim for that goal. So you've made your plan and the first day of school comes. Let's say you joined Homeschooling Torah. You printed out all of the teacher manuals. You printed out the binder for each student. You've got all the books ready. Everything's set. You sit down on that first day and suddenly the day just falls apart. Everybody's crying. Mom's crying. Nothing's working right. What did you do wrong? How come it's not working? Well, let me give you a little bit of advice. On that first day of school, don't actually have school. Teach the routines instead. Okay. The first day of school, don't dive into everything. Maybe just do a short little Bible passage. In fact, in our Foundations 1 curriculum, the very first day, you're actually in Psalms instead of Genesis 1 because you're just doing a little section. Or maybe you just teach your children how to get their book bag put together. And they sit at the table and you're like, okay, for our Bible time today, we're going to have a Bible drill and I'm going to teach you how to find Genesis. And you could just do that little bit. But really what you're teaching is that Bible will be first. What you're teaching is that every day they're going to do copy work, that every day you're going to have a math time and you're going to use manipulatives and flashcards and you're going to have some games, but you're not actually doing it yet. Just do something fun that establishes what the routine is. Maybe you could even make some routine charts, okay? I really don't recommend trying to go too far down an academic hole on that first day because to me, I feel like it always ended in tears, especially when my children were younger and we were more new to homeschooling. Teach the routines first. Get it down. This is the order to our day, and then let them go play. And say, wow, what a great day of school that was. Take everyone's picture for the memory books and call it a day. But stick to a routine and let everyone know what the expectations are. And they'll be like, wow, school's great. I love it. Day 2, then gradually start the academics. This is the argument I get from people when I say to do it this way. They say, but it's day 1 of school and I need to be on day 1 in the curriculum, day 1 in math, day 1 in science, day 1. And I'm going to say, no, you don't. No, you don't. For instance, what are you going to do in February when half of the family gets sick with an awful virus and the other half is perfectly healthy? Well, the ones that are sick are going to be behind a day, while the ones that are healthy might keep going, especially on their independent subjects. And then you're going to be completely off on everything. Nothing bugs me more than not being on the right day. I don't know, maybe that's just my personality, but here's how I fix it. I wanted to share my screen right here. I was going to show you what we use at Homeschooling Torah. It's called the Together School Planner. But since I'm kind of not wanting to give the system a chance to glitch, I'm going to show you my planner instead. I have a little version of my Together School Planner inside this. You don't have to get one of these planners. It maybe wouldn't be a good fit for a lot of you, but there is a version of this and I don't know if that's even going to work. It's kind of bright. Well, this is a Together School Planner. Let me just say what it's got. It's got a slot for 6 days out of the week so that you can plan your week, whether you're a 4-day schooler or a 5-day schooler or a 6-day schooler. And it's got all the subjects down the side: Bible, Hebrew, music, history, science, reading aloud, preschool, math, phonics, and so on. And what I do is every day, as let's say we do Bible and we are on, let's say we are in Bereshit and we're on day 1. So I would put, that's week 1. I would put week 1, day 1, and I would write that on that box for that day. But then let's say that tomorrow we all wake up with terrible sore throats and none of us feel like doing school at all. We're sick. I don't write anything on that day. Day 3 comes and we're feeling better. So I write week 1, day 2, even though it's under day 3. So I just keep track of where we're at. And I do that for every single subject. So then tomorrow when I open up my planner and I look at, okay, wow, we're in history. We're on week 15, day 4, even though it's a Monday. Okay. Whether it's a Thursday, I'll open up my thing on science. I'm on week 18, day 5, even though it's a Thursday. So it helps me stay. I just do the next day. I don't have to do the day that is day 4. Doesn't have to be a Thursday. Day 4 comes after day 3. So if I did day 3, I now do day 4. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just do the next day, whatever day of the week that is, whatever the Father allows to come into your life as far as interruptions, record it. And then tomorrow, pick it up. Another thing I use, and I think you might know this already from, just some of my other things I've been saying, is I love these little sticky tabs. I love sticky notes and sticky tabs. Those sticky tabs are all over my homeschooling. They're in my binder. They're in every one of our history books. They're in my Bible. They're in my timeline book. And so I can just flip open to the sticky tab and continue from where we were. And that just makes my life happy. So you can write down where you're at, but you don't have to be in the same subject for every subject or you don't have to be on the same day for every subject across the board. You just don't. Just keep track of where you're at and let the Father bring interruptions as he sees fit. And meanwhile, you just keep going. Okay. So that was a little bit about how ideally you could set up your school year. I'm going to switch gears for a second and talk about preventing the feelings of overwhelm. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do to prevent overwhelm is to just set up these safeguards before the challenges come. The biggest safeguard I've been explaining to you is to set up your routines, your goals, and to make a plan, make an invention. Yes, the Father will allow trials and tribulations and challenges into your life, but you can safeguard a lot of the ones that are human-made by making a plan. See, not all problems that come into our lives have been given to us by the Father. He allows them. Some of them are of our own doing. We made this mess. Like literally, this house is a mess. It's not like Yah stepped into your living room and trashed it. We trash it, right? We make a lot of our own messes. So we can prevent some of those messes by doing a plan ahead of time. Have a flexible routine. Routines are good. It can be flexible, absolutely, but have a routine, have a track to run on, and have rhythms of rest. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is to optimize when you take breaks. You need breaks in your school day. You need to make sure that you're not just shoving your children into academics every single second. Take a break every once in a while. Mom, you need it too. You need a chance to get up and walk around. Sometimes I just go outside and walk to the back of the property and back again. I like to go out there. The garden is out there. It's peaceful. It's quiet. I can hear the bees buzzing and chase some of those rabbits away from my carrots. And then I can come back in and I'm like, okay, I feel better. I can keep going now. So have a flexible routine. Have some rest. Okay, not just Shabbat, but have other times during the day where you all take a break from school. And leave what my friend Amy from Torah Sisters likes to call margin. That means, on a piece of paper where all the words and the text are written, there's the white around the edges. That white around the edges gives your brain a mental break from so much information coming at it. And we need a lot of white around the edges in our lives, in our schedules. We need a half an hour where your ideal week doesn't have anything on it. It's just free. It's just empty and white and peaceful. And those bits of margin help you to stay sane, okay? That prevents a lot of the feelings of overwhelm that come. Next, I want to remind you of something I said last night. I'm going to pull up a verse for this one, and it's Deuteronomy 31, verse 8. Deuteronomy 31, verse 8. And again, this is nothing I haven't said before, but I just want to remind you. Yehovah said, and Yehovah, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear, nor be dismayed. That was Deuteronomy 31, verse 8. So if you want to prevent overwhelm, maybe you need to paste all over your house verses that remind you that Yah is with you. He will never leave you. He will be your strength. He will be your shield, your rock. Put these kinds of verses everywhere. And that can really help to prevent a lot of the feelings of overwhelm that come in. You need truth when you're having that overwhelming feeling. Thirdly, make your planning more simple than what you think I'm telling you to do. Right now, you're thinking of every bell and whistle you can put in your plan, but I want to encourage you this school year to simplify it down. You can always do more, but if you plan a whole lot and then you can't do it, you're going to feel overwhelmed. If you're a member of Homeschooling Torah, you know there is a lot on that website. And honestly, that's a detriment because there is so much that you could feel overwhelmed. And I've had many people say that over the years, like, wow, I felt overwhelmed. Don't feel overwhelmed. When you get on the site, first of all, there's a roadmap that we help you choose things. But think with me, what's the most important thing? You probably know the answer by now. Bible. Bible's the most important thing. So you can go to the Bible tab and click that. And if that's the only thing you start with for a week and you don't even have any other academics, you're going to be fine. And then, okay, you got that Bible down. School is starting to go. Now, what could we add? Well, to me, I've got my children together for Bible, so maybe we could add in a little bit of history. All right. Got to order some books, get them from the library. Okay. Now it's week 5 or 6. You've got the Bible, you've got the history. I really feel bad that my kids aren't doing some math. Okay, let's add in some math. In my planner, I might now be on week 8 in Bible. I might be on week 6 in history, and I'm on week 1 in math. So make it simple. Slowly add things in. Don't try to do it all at the very beginning. Keep it simple. Again, you can always add more. Next, stock up on tools that you need to be a good homeschool mom. And what I mean by that is, do you have a clue where the scissors are? Do you know where your highlighters are, where paper clips are? Do you know where the staplers are? Do you know where paper is? Or is it everywhere? Every night when you get done with school, maybe one of your routines needs to be cleaning up school and putting it all away, a place for everything and everything in its place. It helps so much with the feelings of overwhelm if you can get rid of the clutter and have a place for everything. And a tip I read in a book a long time ago, and I mean, this is like 20, 25 years ago. I read a tip that said you get tools that you need and put them in every single place that you need them. And the example that she gave was scissors. So maybe you need scissors by the front door. Maybe you have a cabinet there and you get Amazon boxes and you need some scissors so you can quickly open up your Amazon boxes. But you also need scissors at the school table, and you also need scissors in the office, and maybe you need some scissors in the kitchen. Don't just have one pair of scissors. It's worth the investment to get a pair of scissors for each of those places. And so that what is easy to find is also easier to put away. Keeping things simple like that, sometimes it just helps to duplicate the tools that you need, okay? So if you have one set of scissors on the table and every child around the table needs to cut something, you're going to have some problems, mutiny, like we said earlier. So maybe get each of your students a pair of scissors. And yes, I know that costs money and not everyone can do it, but if you have the ability, get some tools. Now, I wanted to read a verse because there's actually a verse in the Bible about this. And it's in Ecclesiastes 10, verse 10. So Ecclesiastes 10:10. And I have to get to it myself. Ecclesiastes 10:10 says, if the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success. In other words, if you have a knife in the kitchen and you're trying to cut tomatoes, but the knife is dull, you know what happens. You start to press on that tomato and it just squishes. But if you have a sharp knife, you just go right through it. Wisdom says, sharpen your tools. Have the tools you need at hand. Don't be dumb about this. Have good tools, and it will help you be more effective as a homeschooler. And that goes for everything, not just scissors, but even the books and the curriculum that you use. Have things that work for you. Make your knife edge sharp, okay? Another one. Each week, celebrate the things that went well. This is kind of a form of giving thanks and honor to Yah. And I think you should honor him and end it with prayer and say, thank you, Father, for the good things that happened this week. At our Sabbath congregation, every Sabbath, we have a little time of praise, and we all share praises of things that were good. We saw the Father do in our lives this week, and it's one of my favorite times of the week. But I think you could do this as a family as well. And I actually lean towards doing it on Shabbat. So for Shabbat begins at sunset on Friday evening. You're having dinner or you've just had dinner. And now is the perfect time. You don't have anything on your to-do list because you're resting. So get the family together and have them share, hey, this is the good thing I learned this week in math. I memorized all of my 6 times tables. Ha-ha, everybody's so excited. Everyone claps, and everyone share the wins. Maybe for me, I want to exercise, and I could say, I exercised 4 whole days this week. I could phrase it the other way. I only exercised 4 days this week, but that's not a praise report. Celebrate the good that happened. I got it done 4 days this week. Yay. And if I get 5 next week, imagine how happy everyone is going to be. So that's a really important thing. It will help you not feel overwhelmed, because when you can rejoice over the good things that have happened, suddenly life doesn't look as hard. It's hard. It was hard. The whole thing was hard, but you made it through. You did it. And the Father helped you. He was with you the whole time. So let's give him praise. I think Sabbath is the perfect time for that. Okay, when hard times come, what are we going to do? We knew it was coming. It does happen. It will happen. It's inevitable. You will get sick sometime. You will have days that you feel doubt. You will have to teach algebra. Okay. These are really difficult things that will come. And now you're in the middle of the mess, the hard thing. What are you going to do now that the overwhelming feelings are starting to close in on you? I want to take you to another verse. And this one is Philippians 4, verse 6 and 7. And I think some of you can already start quoting it. Philippians 4, verse 6 and 7. And it says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yeshua. So, what do you think the answer is? You're in the middle of a hard time. Well, that verse listed off a lot of things. Don't be anxious. Don't let your mind start swarming with all the problems, but take them to the Father in prayer. Take it with a specific list of what your needs are and tell him, thank you for the problem that he's brought into your life. Rejoice, but be specific with the problems that you're facing. And then you can leave it with him. Like I don't just mean have one of those worry prayer times where you just sit there and go, Father, I'm really worried about this. And then you worry about it. I'm talking about pray specifically, use your mouth, your words, and pray specifically and thank him for what he's done. And you'll find that the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard you, even in the middle of the challenge. He doesn't always take the challenge away, but he is working on your behalf. He's always working on your behalf, and he will come through. And because you've asked him, now you're going to be looking for his answer, and you're going to see it. And it's so encouraging. All right. Secondly, have a hard day toolkit. Okay. This is a new word. I've never called it this anywhere else in my blog before, but I think you'll get what I'm saying. You need to have a toolkit of what you're going to do when hard days, the problem times come, the challenges, the sickness, the unexpected financial problems, and you're stranded on the side of the road because your car broke down. Those kind of days. First of all, when I have a hard day, I usually like to just take a break. Okay. If a hard time comes, everybody's crying at school, let's take a break. And sometimes that means take a walk. Sometimes that means just walking away from the hard thing for just a second and collecting my composure before I just like, blah! Okay. So just take a break for a second and just, all right. Let's start to get my mind on truth. Let's remember Yah is with me. He's not going to desert me. He's not going to leave me alone. Let's see if I can remember some scripture verses, because I always do better when I have one of those promises. Take a break. 2, when you have a hard day, maybe pause school for a minute. You could have a review day. You could do a lot of things. You could just watch some educational videos on YouTube for the day. You can just Google them and find the topic that you were already doing, but give yourself a little bit of a break from homeschooling for just a day. You could bring in a substitute teacher. And I actually have a blog post about this. I'm throwing my daughter one she wasn't expecting, but maybe she can go on our blog real quick and find there's a blog post about when mom needs a substitute teacher. And there's a whole list of ideas that you can do. There are people in your life that you probably already know, maybe just your husband, but someone that could come in and give you a break so you can go take care of the challenge, whether that's you're sick and you need a day off, or maybe need a couple weeks to have a baby. Okay. So get a substitute teacher and be ready for that. You need to prep ahead a toolkit. Okay. This is where we're at. This is how we do things. Maybe here's some fun things. If everything, goes south, maybe you can just look in your toolkit and find some of those ideas for yourself. Okay. You can have a day of games. Games are wonderful. You can just play games all day and do puzzles and things like that. There's so many good skills that you can learn in playing a game. I'm not saying you should do that every day, but sometimes you just need a day like that. Okay. In my life, what we have done is because we've had a lot of crazy circumstances come into our lives, we will have a plan A. Plan A is my ideal week. This is when life is going perfect. That's plan A. Then we have plan B. Plan B is we cut a lot of things out. For instance, There are days that we don't do math. Because I'm just overwhelmed or sick. A lot of times I'm sick and I can't do it. And sometimes we don't even do Bible as a family. Sometimes my children are older, but even if they were younger, maybe I put on an audio Bible and I'm off the hook for the day and we don't really discuss it. It's just one day. You'll be okay. Maybe I just tell my older students, just read the Bible on your own today because I'm sick. Okay. So plan B, you've simplified the schedule out, and here are some basic things. I still want them to do copy work. Now, if they're the ones that are sick, no, I'll let them off the hook for that. But if let's just say the challenge is for me, I will still have them do copy work. I'll still have them do some of their reading, but we're going to skip math today. We're going to skip science. I still want to do the audio Bible. Okay, so you get what I'm saying? Plan A is perfect. Plan B is we can simplify it and do some of the things and a little bit of a modification. And then there's plan C, where you just don't do school at all. Okay? That's allowed. I've been in the hospital a few times. Plan C definitely happens sometimes. Okay? Don't forget, though, even when you're sick, to document what you did. You'd be surprised what your children are actually learning on those plan B and plan C days. And it's going to be okay. All right. Make sure you have some support. I know this is sometimes out of our control, and I know there are some watching right now that do not have much support, and I'm not really talking to you at this exact second, but if you have support locally, anyone who can be a support, it may not be perfect. Maybe you have an aunt that doesn't keep Torah, but she still loves your children, and she will at least not bring pork over to your house. That is a wonderful person for support. Who else do you have that could be a support to you? Where does your mom live? You know, things like that. Friends, people in your Torah community. Now, if you have zero support, go online because you actually do have support. I want to read Proverbs 24:6. So Kirsten, Proverbs 24:6, I'm going to turn to it real quick in my Bible. Proverbs 24:6 says, "For by wise counsel, you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counselors, there is safety." Now, I want to talk about what community and counselors are for a second. A lot of times they go out on social media, and I notice that moms have a community where they can go and just gripe about the world, or maybe brag about how awful their children are. Well, my child is so bad. This is what they did, and post pictures of how bad your child is. And then everybody whose children are just exactly as bad as your children will come underneath going, yeah, my child's bad like that too. Good job, Mom. You hang in there. You're doing okay. And they're like lifting her up, even though they're not giving her any good counsel whatsoever. That is not the community I'm telling you to go find. I'm just being blunt here. Go find a multitude of real counselors who will counsel you according to the word. You need people in your life that will say, are you sure you couldn't at least do math today? I know you're really tired, but maybe you could buck up and just do one subject. Could you do that? And you'll be like, okay, I can do one subject. That's the kind of counsel you need. Look for those kind of people to surround you with, people who are better than you, people who will lift you up and who will not applaud bad behavior, but will say, Mom, you could teach your child this skill today. That's what you're looking for, okay? So what I want you to do is not find a complaining place, but find an uplifting place. Now, I have a couple recommendations. One of them is to come to Homeschooling Torah. We have several ways that you can find community. We have, for members, we have a community inside of our membership. We have a Discord group. And I know maybe sometimes the teenagers are the ones who love it. And I love the teenagers in the Discord group. But moms, you can go in there too. You are super welcome to go there. We also have a Facebook group for those that are on Facebook. And I know not everyone is, but we have a Facebook group, and you don't have to be a member of Homeschooling Torah to be in that group. There are other Torah communities out there too. You don't have to do it through Homeschooling Torah. For instance, our sponsor tonight, Torah Sisters, go there. She's got a community of women. And then you be someone's good counselor, not their shoulder to complain on, but their good counselor. And then you seek those godly women to surround your life with, because you need them, especially when the challenging days come. Finally, don't forget the gratitude. I want to recommend that you get a journal and write praise reports in it often. As often as you can. I know I already said this today, but when you are in the midst of the trials, that's when you need to have the gratitude. Okay, so I'll just stop there and not say anything more about that. Time is almost up. I want to just really quickly talk about 6 myths of homeschooling that I hear, and I just want to bust those myths out of here. And then we're going to take questions. So if you have questions that you've been thinking about, go ahead and make sure you put them in the comments, and we'll take the time at the end to talk about them real quick. I'm going to go through my quick list of myths, though. We don't believe this stuff, all right? We're better than this. Here's a myth. My child has unique learning styles, and so I'm going to have to customize the education for every single one of my children. I've got a visual learner and a kinesthetic learner, an audio learner. Yes, you do have those learners, but let's bust that myth. Every child needs to learn in all of those ways. They have weaknesses, maybe. Their strength is in visual, but their weaknesses are in the other. We can build up all of them and strengthen them in all of those areas. Mom, you do not have to be all things to all people. Just be you. Be the way the Father made you and teach your children in that way. I have a feeling they'll learn, okay? Don't try to be everything for every one of your children. Myth number 2, we're homeschoolers. We don't need a set start time to the day. Yeah, you do. Because when life happens and your children grow up, they have things that they have to go to, like dentist appointments that happen at that time. And if you don't make it at that time, you have to reschedule for 6 months from now. No, life has set times. Train your children how to actually live in the real world. Have a set start time to your day. Here's another myth. Homeschooling is just a lifestyle. I don't need a curriculum. Well, maybe you don't need a curriculum. Maybe you're like super creative and you can make your own curriculum, but that is a curriculum. But to say it's just a lifestyle probably means that you're not really actually getting much education done. So don't fall prey to that lie. Another one, number 4, it doesn't matter when my children learn things. Eventually they'll pick it up. Actually, it does matter. Some things are better learned when they're young. The earlier, the better. For instance, good character. Good character, you should start that around 5 months old. At 5 months old, start teaching your children to obey. It is easier to do it at the right moment, at the window that the Creator made your children to have. Don't fall prey to that. Yes, I know you could catch them up on good character, but it's a lot better if you start it right from the beginning. Same thing goes for reading. Same thing goes for multiplication tables. Don't fall prey to those lies. Okay. Number 5. I don't want to kill my children's love of learning by giving them something they don't like. Well, I don't really like broccoli, but the sulfur in it is really good for me. And sometimes I need to eat broccoli, whether I like it or not. I don't like to exercise, but I still need to do it or my muscles are going to atrophy. We have to do lots of things in life that are difficult. And if we pander to that, we're going to create lazy, self-centered children. So don't fall prey to that myth. Do hard things with your children. Finally, my children only learn through play. Really? I mean, I love play. Play is amazing. I want my children to play. And on my ideal week, I would put time slots in for them to play. But they also have to learn academics. They have to learn to write. They have to learn to read. They have to learn to multiply. They have to memorize scripture. And sometimes that's not very fun. Play is not all there is. Yes, definitely set aside time for children to be able to pursue their interests, but also do the things that are much more important in the long run of life. Okay. So, wow. I just busted some of those, frankly, lazy myths. I think a lot of those, we're just feeling a little lazy. And we don't want to harm our children with our own laziness. So I just wanted to bring those in. So I think that's the end of it. I'm hoping there are some questions. I'm going to just check real quick and see what Kirsten has for me. So no questions yet. Anyone have any questions? Anything that you want to do? If not, I want to remind you all that you can go to homeschoolingtorah.com and click on the support tab, and you can send us an email. I know we've been super busy this week, but we've been doing okay at keeping up with the vast majority of emails. And we'll try to, as next week comes, it'll be even easier. We really don't mind answering your questions. So if you have a question, you think of it in the middle of the night, you think, wait a minute, when I'm overwhelmed, what about this? go ahead and send it to us. We would be absolutely happy to take that. So if there are no other questions, then I just want you guys to go and have a relaxing evening. Go have a wonderful bedtime routine with your kids. Have you read them a story today? Go do that. I don't have any little ones here. My grandson isn't here tonight either. So I don't really have anyone that wants to hear a bedtime routine. I mean, my 6'2" son probably really isn't too much into bedtime stories, but we do have some fun things we do every evening, and I'm going to go do that. And I hope you have a wonderful evening too. Join us tomorrow. My daughter Kirsten just said, I hear a bedtime story. All right, cool. All right. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we're going to be meeting to talk about Hebrew for homeschoolers, how to make it fun, how to learn Hebrew as a family, and how to be able to actually read your Bible. I'm bringing in a special guest tomorrow. It's not going to be just me. I'm going to bring in someone who's better at it than I am, and we're going to have fun talking. So that is not a session you want to miss. So Hebrew for homeschoolers at 11 a.m. In the afternoon, we're going to be talking to Heidi Cooper from Torah Family Living and Shane Brock from Fruitful Seasons Birth. And then tomorrow evening, we're going to end the conference. We're going to talk about how to incorporate the Torah and all the feasts and Sabbath and all the great, amazing things like that into your family and into your homeschooling. And then we're going to end at 9 p.m. Eastern with a really fun party and give away a lot of prizes. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Shalom.